still need to do all their public improvements. They wanted to make changes to the public improvements and make some changes which required to come back to the Planning Commission. They changed their mind and they're going back to the original design. They do have approval for that, and their contractors lining up to start the construction of the curbs, gutters, sidewalks, street trees, and streetlights. Many Mansions project along Santa Clara and Mountain View. It's under construction. They'll most likely seek occupancy around March for half of the product, and about 6 months later, the remaining product, and that's an affordable project. The Anza Gate for the Orchard project. That's the private gate for El Dorado. They are delayed due to COVID. The construction plans are approved. They're approved by El Dorado property owner. They're approved by the developer. They're approved by the city. The gates are under construction at the manufacturer. They'll take 2 months, but that plant got hit pretty hard by COVID, so they got delayed. Some of the materials are sitting offshore, and so they can't finish everything. So we're probably delayed 3 or 4 months on the Anza Gate due to COVID. But everything else is lined up and ready to go. Just as a reminder, only those residents who live in El Dorado will be able to come back and forth through Anza Gate. They'll be the only ones with that card. It is not a public access point. Jamba Juice and Wingstop is under construction. We have here hot tap for a fire connection. That just got approval. That's for the fire sprinklers. So I expect maybe occupancy sometime in January. The packing house located at 341 A Street, just last night at the City Council, we extended the deadline to complete the building and safety items. They're well underway with the building and safety items, and you'll see it when you drive by. There are 3 major entry points. The packing house is built in the 1920s. It's an old style. The entry points, when you see it's finished, it's extremely modern and extremely contemporary. That's done intentionally to draw attention to the building. And when they were constructing that, they hit some unknown basement, and they had to do a major structural redesign of the entrances. So that's causing delays, so we asked for an extension. The extension's until June 2022. For the project located at 461 Central Avenue, that's the old Faith Community Church building. They are changing what got approved. Planning Commission and City Council, you approved it as apartments and artist studios, and they are changing it to a banquet hall. So it's not open yet. We've allowed limited use, and we're monitoring that at the City Council level, but ultimately it's going to have to come back to the Planning Commission and to the City Council. We'll continue along this limited review as long as they're meeting building codes, but it will be a major revision. Rite Aid, it's a complete rebuild of Rite Aid. We expect that to be occupied in January, so that work should be done. McDonald's is completed. They did a new drive-through and a trash enclosure. If you're familiar with the house on Olive Street, so that's the house with the modular. The house was placed on the foundation, so that's well underway. If you recall the AT&T tower, where we took the city logo and we put it on the AT&T cell tower, which is about 35 feet in height, we camouflaged it. The building permit was issued. They picked up the building permit, so they'll be under construction soon. And the AT&T tower that's up on the hillside, we approved the emergency generator. It's going to be built into the hillside and retaining walls. They've received building permits as well. Sonic is in plan check number 6. We're going to be going into plan check number 7. There are engineering corrections that need to be done. Plan checks I have in there as a list. Number 2, ADUs, that's accessory dwelling units. Just to let you know, those are also known as granny flats. The state of California permits those and forces the city to permit those too. They're becoming very popular in the city of Fillmore, and they'll continue to be very popular. We'll get more and more through the years. And then things that are in the application process that will be coming before you now, there are about 12 projects. They're in various stages, and I'll go through those. We have a project in the North Fillmore area called Williams Homes, about 133 units. We've been reviewing that for about a year and a half now. There are corrections that they need to do. I hope to bring that before you at the end of spring, early summer. There's actually a lot of work that they need to do. It might be a little bit later. We have another project, number 2 there, called Riverview Gardens. It's an 88-unit project. I've given you the plans. Please begin reviewing those plans I've sent you. And please do not talk with each other about it, and don't talk to the planning city council with it. This will be a public hearing. If you have questions, you can ask me about it. We are at the stage of writing conditions of approval and preparing the public hearing for that planning commission and city council. So please review it based on design and be prepared to make comments that you may have. We have a commercial center. It's about a year away. That's a big project and a very complicated project, and that's a maybe project. I'm not 100% certain about that project. Number 4 is the self-storage project. The deadline for that's right across the street from the mobile home park. They've been extended to June 2022. That's a project that you guys had approved maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and they've had some extensions. Number 5, the People Self-Help Project. If you recall, you guys had reviewed it, and you were you concurred with staff's comments, which staff was very thorough in the comment, and then you added a lot of comments. Based on your review and your comments, the developer completely revised the project, 100%. It's nothing like it was before. I will present to you in January an update of what they're proposing. I'm not at liberty yet to explain what they're doing because they just submitted it. And I'm still right in the middle of reviewing it, but it is a brand new, completely different project. And they're changing it because of the comments that you've made. We have a project where we have development permit 19-07. The application's wholly incomplete, and I don't know how real that project is. There's another self-storage project, number 7, development permit 21-01. It's a large self-storage project. It's been underway for over a year. That is incomplete too. I don't know how real that project is, not until they resubmit. Number 8, Popeyes. That is a real project. Brian is processing the project right now. We hope to be before you before spring on the proposed Popeyes. We have a project located at 327 Central Avenue that is a vacant building. The property owner has not yet determined what they want inside the building, so it remains vacant, and they have not yet submitted an application to us. Nova Storage on A Street wants a 20,000 square foot expansion. We've reviewed it. It looks pretty good. It will require your review and your approval. They're in the middle of making all of our corrections before they come forward to you. Number 11 is another apartment project that's on commercial highway property. Per our housing element that we're on our 5th cycle, we're allowed to convert commercial highway. So that project has a long way to go. That's a complicated project. It'll be a long time before you see that one. Number 12, Red Engine Microbrewery. They've kind of announced to the public already who and what they are before they even submitted an application to the planning department. We were unaware that they were doing anything until we read it in social media. So they are proposing to convert Family Dollar to a microbrewery. That will have to come before you as a planning commission to review it. So please do not discuss it with yourselves, and please do not contribute to the social media. We are deep into reviewing it, and the applicant's doing a good job in making all of our corrections, and we'd like to bring that to you as quickly as we can, maybe January or February. Those are future projects that will be coming up to you pretty soon. Then I have large planning documents, such as our housing elements and zoning and general plan. I'll quickly go through those. In the North Fillmore area, we have, for the last 3 years, been developing the plan for the whole 100-acre area. It's called North Fillmore Specific Plan, and it is consistent with what the voters approved. They said the voters, through Measure I, set criteria. Based on that criteria, we had to develop a plan. I have an administrative draft of that, and I would like to bring that to you in spring 2022 as well. That's been a long time coming. Next is the housing element. I would like to bring the housing element to you in early spring, maybe February or March. I'll present that to you, and the housing element's a document for the next 8 years of what we need to do to create opportunities of affordable homes to Fillmore. We have Rule 20A undergrounding. So we have funding available to the City of Fillmore to underground existing utilities. The City Council already approved it, already approved the funding, and now we'll be in engineering. It's a long process. It may take a few years, but we're doing that. The gateway signs that you reviewed, the City Council has not yet reviewed it. City staff will provide a critique of the gateway and an update and an explanation of maintenance costs and construction costs, and we'll present that to the City Council. We'll also give an update to how those gateways coincide with future gateways, that is the developer's responsibilities. So those are things that we were not prepared to present to the Planning Commission, but we will present that to the City Council. The City Hall fountain in front of the City Hall, last year at this time, the City Council approved funding to repair it. It's currently under construction. I know it doesn't look like it is, but it is currently being repaired. And with that repair is, once it is finished, the contract is that the person that repairs it will maintain it for 1 year. So that's underway. The delay has been COVID. So many of the items that had to be repaired is stuck either in port, we can't get it, and we have to find an alternative material, a big cabinet that goes down below ground and stuff like that. So that got messed up by COVID. You already approved the water efficiency ordinance that went to the City Council last night as a second reading, and so we now have an efficiency ordinance. The equestrian center is not in the planning department. It's with the city engineer, and they are importing soil. They're required to cap it with soil and to prevent the landfill from working its way to the top. That's a county requirement, and the operator is working with the city engineering department to go through that. The City of Fillmore has some surplus property. We're obligated to sell it to affordable developers. It's a project you recommended approval, and the City Council approved it. It's right across the street from the mini mansion project along the railroad tracks. That project got approved. It went to the City Council and it got approved. 3 days later, the developer withdrew the application and decided not to move forward with it. Well, that property was owned by the redevelopment agency, and we're obligated to offer it to affordable developers. Cabrillo and Mini Mansions have expressed interest to build residential there, and so we're going through that process internally. That completes, I did a very thorough review for you. I don't always go into that great detail. I don't always have this list out for you, but I wanted to let you know all the things that the planning department is working on.
What about the code enforcement?
I usually don't like to announce code enforcement because it's kind of personal, but I'll go through that. I do oversee code enforcement. There's a lot more on this list, but it's some of it's private. So there's an airplane part storage here in the city, and they're having access issues. They have too much in the hallways, right? We need to clear that out for fire regulations. We're going through that. The second code enforcement is we have 33 dead street trees in the Bridges subdivision. They've been dead for 7 years. We replaced 20 of them, but we still have 35 more to go. It's going to cost $55,000 to replace them, right? It's over $2,000 a piece to replace them. So we only have the budget of $10,000. So we're trying to work it within the system, and we're a little slow to do that. We wanted to solve the problem of why trees are dying. They're dying, we're overwatering them. Right? The city is overwatering the trees. We drowned them. So we're trying to correct that so we don't spend all of this money and kill the trees again. So we now know the cause. The third code enforcement is the same thing in another subdivision, and that's the street called Santa Fe Street. They have 80 dead trees for the same reasons, but it's not the city that's killing them, it's the homeowner. You know, they love them to death, right? So they see the tree suffering, add more water. And it's suffering more and more, add more water. Well, water has nowhere to go and they rot the roots. So we'll start a process to begin slowly replacing them. We have been through the years. That started as a code enforcement complaint. Someone who lives on Santa Fe called the Public Works Department. We had to go do a survey, and it's a great number of trees that are dead, and we will put it on the replacement program, and we will be replacing those trees. The areas that I just discussed, that's in an area called a landscape assessment district. Those property owners that live in those areas are being taxed every year to replace the trees or maintain the trees, right? So it's their money we're using to replace the trees. And it's important that I make this distinction because in the older parts of the city, there is no maintenance tax. Right, it's the city's general fund repairs those trees. That's an important distinction because the general fund doesn't have money to replace. We don't always replace dead street trees, but in the brand new subdivisions, you're taxed, and we are replacing trees that do die. That's our code. That's code enforcement. We do a lot more code enforcement than that, but it gets pretty personal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Kevin on item 8A? Okay, we'll move on to item 8B, Planning Commission brief reports. Do any of the commissioners have any brief reports? I just wanted to ask Kevin one thing on this item regarding the Planning Commissioners Academy. Is that something we're going to pursue, or?
We are going to pursue. I don't have the budget for every single one of you, and I'll be working with you guys via email, making sure I can get hotel rooms and make sure each and every one of you can go. It's expensive. I didn't budget properly, but we promised to get you guys trained and to attend conferences, so I need to follow up on that. It's in March. So I'll be following up with emails for you. Where is it? It's in San Ramon? San Ramon. Yeah. I really encourage you to attend. So I'm going to do the best. We may have to do some budget adjustment to get all of you guys to go.
Okay, we'll move on to item 8C. Planning Commission members may propose items for placement on a future agenda. Do we have any items for that? Okay, then we'll move on to item 9, adjournment. So at this time, I'll adjourn this meeting to the next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for January 19th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.